last video that I made spoke about 30-year-old grief that I had a surge in. And I did have a lot of questions from people in terms of how can that be 30 years later? You can still be so upended. So today I wanted to talk about how to measure your grief, how to know if you can trust your grief. Welcome to Grief Support That Works. I'm Jo McRogers. Welcome back, or welcome here for the first time, our little corner of YouTube where we welcome your grief. Today I wanted to be really clear that while I had the surge of grief, and I will link to the video at the end of this one, while I had this surge of grief, I want you to know that it brought more work to my mind that I needed to do, but it did not take me deep in my grief 30 years on. And often I will ask people when they're talking about, I thought I was over it, I thought I had done my work, I had to spend time with what I suggest to people when those are the questions. So there are three primary concepts I want you to keep in mind. And I learned these concepts when I was doing work for insurance companies for people that had been in motor vehicle accidents. And it comes largely from pain management and physiotherapy. So the three concepts are intensity, frequency, and duration. And I have learned to take those and apply those to emotional states as well. So when I spoke about my 30-year on surge of grief, speaking about intensity, it wasn't so much that the intensity was the same as when I first lost my mom 30 years ago, but the intensity was a surprise because I thought I had done all of the work that I needed to do to dial down the intensity. The grief felt refreshed. The grief felt as though it had popped up in a way that I wasn't prepared for or expecting. So the intensity was there, but was it as intense as the beginnings? Certainly not. I think what tricked me or tripped me up was the fact that the intensity reminded me of those early days. So intensity is an important evaluation to do if you're having a grief surge. Number two, frequency. Clearly, it's 30 years on, and I have been able in many, many ways and for decades to be able to honor this grief, to be honoring my relationship with my mom who had died. So it had been a very long time since my grief felt that raw or exposed. So the frequency wasn't nearly the same as in the beginning where it was just ever present. So frequency is an important condition to evaluate as well. The next and final consideration is duration. My grief for my mom lasted a long, long, long time. And while there's no magic number to suggest to you, I remember it being at least 9 or 10 months until I kind of went, oh, okay. So now I know some of the fog is lifting, even though months ago I thought some of the fog was lifting. So you can't compare one to the other or one person to the other, but the duration was months and months and months. In this instance of my 30-year surge, caught me by surprise, took me days to realize I needed to do some work with it because I was walking around angry with anybody and everything that was just pissing me off in the world. The duration, however, was short. It wasn't short and sweet, but it was short. And it's taken me probably 4 weeks now, as I say, to be able to talk about it and make this video. So please do not fear that your grief is exactly as it is in the early days going to last for the 30 years. That wasn't my intention. I want to reassure you that when you can apply those filters of intensity, frequency, and duration, you'll see the places that you have made progress in integrating your grief in your life. So if you've got thoughts on this, please send a comment so we can all know that it's safe to be with our grief and to do our grief work. And I send you kind thoughts, kind words, and a kind heart as you do that